and authorization to proceed with bidding for Capitol Square preservation projects. There was one other agenda item we considered removing and then have added back to allow time for discussion for some bronze plaques to be mounted in the Capitol complex. At this time, Ms. Lovato will conduct the roll call.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gorman. This is Shelley Lovato, Project Specialist and SBC Recording Secretary. I'll start beginning roll call. Superintendent Degenfelder.
Here.
Treasurer Meyer.
Here.
Auditor Racinas.
Here.
Secretary Gray.
Here.
Chairman Gordon.
Here.
Senator Driscoll. Absent. Senator Landon.
Here.
Representative Nicholas. Absent. And Representative Angelos.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. We can proceed with the agenda. But before we do, though, I just want to say we are in an interesting time. There was a bill passed a few years ago, Senate File 52, I believe, that changes the way rules are going to be dealt with. And I think there has been a very sizable rush to get as many rules out of the way prior to July 1st, which is when that new piece of legislation goes into effect. And as a result, there is perhaps not as careful review as one might have hoped. And I just want to apologize to begin with, because I think some of us have not seen these rules before Monday. And so as we get walking through this, I think there may be some confusion. And so just bear with us. This is not the way that I would hope that we would continue to do the business of the state. And so I want to state at the outset that I'm a little bit disappointed with where we are and why we're here with the set of circumstances that we have. I will note for the record that Representative Nicholas has come on, and I think I see Senator Driscoll as well. With that, Madam Secretary, please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, item 1 is approval of the agenda or amending the agenda at the board's discretion.
So do you want to walk through that, Madam Secretary? I believe we were going to, we have the commission roll call, then we are going to approve the agenda, which at this point is the item 3A first. MOU between Wyoming State Building Commission, Wyoming State Construction Department, and Wyoming Legislature Management Council. Then were we then going to go to the rules and to end with the Capitol Square Preservation Project? Madam Secretary, I'm apologizing. I wasn't here earlier, but do we have an agenda printed?
Mr. Chairman, no, with the knowledge that the director of LSO was not available for the afternoon meeting, I received guidance from your office that it would be what wasn't pertinent to necessarily change it to be first.
Okay. So it's as printed in the book?
Or as the commission decides.
Okay. Members of the commission, you've heard that. What is your pleasure?
So sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you say we're going to take up the MOU first? Or
That's the pleasure of the commission. I was under the impression we were going to have a reprinted agenda. So as I said, I'm apologizing for that kind of haphazardness of this, but if we want to take up the MOU first, I'm happy to do that, but it's up to the will of the commission as to how they would like to have the agenda run. You have one printed in your book.
Mr. Chairman, being that I have to be here for all of it, I would say I'll move the agenda as it appears in the book.
Okay, is there support? It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we have the agenda. We can proceed.
Mr. Chairman, item 2 concerns proposed revisions to the State Building Commission rules. At the April meeting, the commission authorized staff to prepare draft rule revisions addressing 3 categories of changes, which were presented in the entirety of their concepts. Those proposed revisions reflected in items 2A through 2C were presented at that time for discussion and direction. Following the commission's subsequent special meeting to reschedule the regular July meeting, staff identified an additional opportunity to improve administrative efficiency and reduce unnecessary procedural burden associated with meeting scheduling. As a result, a 4th category of proposed revisions, item 2D, has been brought forward by the commission's consideration. The proposed revisions have been organized into 4 categories to clearly identify the source and purpose of each change while presented separately for discussion. The department intends to combine any approved revisions into a single rulemaking package to move them to the next step of public comment. The commission's actions today is whether to approve the proposed revisions for advancement into the formal rulemaking process. Following commission approval, the proposed rules will be submitted to the governor's office for authorization to proceed and with rulemaking, and if authorized, published for public notice and comment as required by the Wyoming Administrative Procedure Act. Staff recommends approval of the proposed revisions, authorization to proceed with formal rulemaking, and authorization for staff to make any necessary clerical, formatting, numbering, cross-reference, or other non-substantive corrections prior to publication. With that, staff will introduce each category of proposed rule revision for discussion.
Thank you. And so to be clear, the issues before us today are to start the rulemaking process with the drafts that are contained in the book. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, item 2A contains rule revisions necessary to implement Executive Order 26-1. These revisions establish standards related to campaign activity, campaign contributions, solicitation, and related conduct within state facilities under the commission's jurisdiction. The revisions are intended to provide clarity for agencies, employees, elected officials, candidates, and members of the public while ensuring consistency with the executive order. Staff recommends forwarding these proposed revisions for public comment.
Okay, and Madam Secretary, can you give us an outline of what you perceive the timeline for these to come before us for final approval?
Mr. Chairman, if approved by SBC, the agency would intend to send the packet to the governor's office for permission to proceed before June 29th. And then we would post the approved rulemaking packet on the Secretary of State's rules website, and it would be open from July 9th through at least August 23rd, but more likely extending closer to the next regularly scheduled SBC meeting of October 14th, 2026. After they're adopted, and if there are comments, the commission must respond to those comments, and we would do so at the October 14th meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Members of the commission, are there questions or comments?
Yeah, I guess one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please,
It's,
Mr. Treasurer.
Chapter 1, I guess it's section DX. It is an X one. We got 2 X's there. That's probably a Scribner's thing. One should be, because you have 2 parentheses with X, but. under
Mr.
10
Treasurer,
Yeah.
what page are you on?
Oh, I'm on SB, one of one, SBC 9, chapter 1.
Okay,
Okay. So I think there's some Scribner stuff there where you have 2 X's in parentheses, and that probably needs to be renumbered, relettered. But the one thing that seems a little bit out of place is this the prohibitions there on the campaign activity? And because it says, completion of the YCFIS reports. I know when we were in the legislature, we went to, you know, the election office and said, how do we complete these things? Because they were new, you know, but why, does that mean you can't go to the Secretary of State's office and ask for advice on completion of these?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Treasurer, right here in this portion, first, yes, we do ask permission to work on the numbering throughout, depending on if any of these are approved today
Right,
to
right,
go
yeah,
forward.
Yeah,
Secondly, on page 1-1, SBC page 9, these are just definitions.
they're just definitions.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I would like to invite Ms. Tabitha Wolf to the testimony table to be able to assist us in.
Okay, so I guess as we go through here, if we see this campaign activity and it says that any of these things are unlawful in the Secretary of State's office, I guess I'd probably ask the Secretary of State. I think a lot of these things would probably be in the normal course of business. So I just want to make sure we don't have unintended consequences.
Mr. Chairman, Treasurer, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we start to dive into details of the rules, I just want to understand, so what's before us today, are all 4 of these wrapped into one rulemaking package? Is that correct?
Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent, the purpose for including them in the packet as separate sections is to allow the commission to approve them individually or together. If any of them move forward, we would hope to combine them into one rulemaking package so that the numbering could be, and everything could be conformed to proper format.
Mr. Chairman, follow up.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, there's been a lot of discussion. Are these rules ready for prime time? Are we in a good place here, knowing that we have this, deadline before the statute referenced by the governor goes into effect? What would the timeline be if we chose not to move on them today?
Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent, I think that could be at the pleasure of the board, whether the board would like to advance them for public comment today. They would stay on this particular timeline. I would like to say that I don't believe the purpose of bringing these forward today as a special meeting is necessarily to beat the July 1st deadline. It's more to meet the end of the administration, where we'll have potentially new commission members who will be brought up to speed and keeping that kind of institutional knowledge momentum. With that said, there is flexibility in the schedule to have a special meeting, to not have a special meeting, to defer, additional drafts to be brought before you for feedback, and still be complete by inauguration of next year. Yeah, there's flexibility, and it's up to the commission's preference of how you would like to proceed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. Wolf, I'm just curious if you can kind of walk through, I guess, your interpretation of how these processes could go forward.
Commissioner Gordon, the rules can proceed according to normal rulemaking processes. So we can open public comment today if the commission feels that they are ready, or if the commission does not feel that they are ready, they can provide direction to the department and the AG's office to be prepared for the next meeting, or to have another special meeting scheduled to address these rules and to incorporate any changes that the commission would like into the rules. To the extent that there are minor changes today, we don't typically like to change rules on the fly because that doesn't give the AG's office time to fully evaluate the implications of any changes. However, we can make changes to the rules. So to jump to the question and the treasurer's question about the definition and of campaign activity. So if the commission felt like the inclusion of the YCFIS reports was too broad of a prohibition, that can be removed today and the commission can proceed. Once it's open for public comment, then we'll have our standard statutory 45 days to have it open for public comment, 45 days or longer at the commission's pleasure. Once that 45 days is over and during that 45 days, any concerns that are brought to the department, we can start incorporating any minor changes to the rules. So there is some wiggle room to address public comments without having to subsequently go out for public comment. However, there is a line where the changes become so drastic that we then have to open it up for public comment again. So there is some room for natural outgrowth to amend those rules before the final adoption.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. And on this latter point that you brought up, I think that there is a distinction between sort of what is a major rule and new rules. Can you kind of walk us through that with, is it Senate Enrolled Act 52 from the 2025 session?
I believe so. I have it as, I have the session laws in front of me, so it's chapter 128 from the 25.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I hope that's the correct bill number. So the major rule changes introduce some additional reporting and review from the Legislative Services Office. Now, for new rules, we already consult with LSO and provide them an opportunity for input prior to adoption of the rules. And their definition of new rules is typically fairly broad. So even if you are amending an existing rule, if that amendment is in response to a statutory change, that is considered a new rule because it is implementing new legislation. So that would still go before LSO. Already under the major rules, there is some additional reporting to LSO, which primarily impact rules that will reduce business competitiveness in the state or have a significant financial cost to the state.
Thank you. And then it appears to me, and this either secretary or counselor, it appears to me that these rules are not emergent in the sense that their implementation really, we're not asking for emergency, number one, and their implementation is going to come well after, presumably well after the election this year is over. Would that be a correct assumption?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely.
Okay,
There
thank
is
you.
no emergency.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Madam Auditor.
Mr. Chairman, and getting into the weeds a little bit, but maybe a question for Ms. Wolf. I think the treasurer's question was good because I think as written, they very clearly prohibit that activity because it says within any state facility. The other thing I'm struggling, I always want to make things easy to read and understand for someone who is trying to follow rules that we put out. And as someone who spends a lot of time in this area, I think whether you can do things outside of buildings is very unclear because in one section, it says that you can't do these things inside or outside of state facilities. And then in the other, it specifically says if you're outside a state building, it's okay. But then I guess my other question is just bigger picture. Gosh, so much happens in the rotunda and the halls of the Capitol that would very clearly violate all of these that are not contributions per se, but are very much political in nature. And I really haven't had time to reflect on whether we or are these not, or is the rotunda not impacted by us in terms of whose space that is? But I don't know that's really fundamentally changing the use of that area, I guess. Or correct me, perhaps.
Commissioner Gordon, Auditor Racines. So a couple of comments. So during the legislative session, specific areas of the Capitol transfer from under state construction control to under LSO control. And as with all rules governing the Capitol complex, they only apply to legislative spaces to the extent that Management Council adopts them. So Management Council is free to disagree with SBC's rules, and in which case they would only apply to SBC spaces and to those flex spaces that change during the legislative session. The legislative rules would take over during the session, and then it would revert back to state construction rules outside of the legislative session. And Madam Secretary, you may be more up to speed on this than I am, whether the rotunda is included in that transfer of space, but I believe it is under SBC control year round. Okay. So the rotunda, it would apply. However, because of the First Amendment concerns with any regulation to political activity, we did include in the draft rules that nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit lawful political expression, advocacy, campaigning, petitioning, or other constitutionally protected activity outside of a state facility, on public sidewalks, public right-of-ways, or in other areas not subject to the commission's jurisdiction. So we did try to clarify that it's limited to certain areas already. And then as far as the rotunda, the rules, because it is an indoor space, it would apply, but it doesn't limit political speech so much as certain activities. So there are similar rules that have been enacted by the federal Congress to govern spaces in Washington, D.C. So the types of campaign activities that are proposed to be restricted are similar to those that are already in place in Washington. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Follow up on that?
No, again, Mr. Chairman, I guess just come, if you're a member of the public or a candidate, it's hard to define, the steps of the Capitol versus the rotunda. We sell it all as the people's house. And so it's hard to draw a line there in terms of, again, someone who wants to follow the rules, but also exercise their right, knowing where that line is. Again, since we have operated with that rotunda as a political space since forever. I'm assuming. Yeah.
Specific circumstances. Mr. Treasurer.
I recall this picture of Stan Hathaway with a couple of small children right outside the door that said governor on it and, in the building. So would that be deemed illegal after these rules are in effect?
Ms. Wolf.
Commissioner Gordon, Treasurer Meyer. Generally speaking, no. So photographs are allowed and the legislators are going to be in the Capitol performing their job duties. If that is then photographed, that's not campaign activity. It's part of their work as a legislator or as an elected official. So that would not fall within the definition of campaign activities. So the intent of the proposed rules is really to limit the use of the state's facilities and resources for the governance of the state, as opposed to a personal use where you are promoting your own candidacy.
So
Mr. Chairman.
Just
I'll follow up for the treasurer and then I'll see you.
Just quickly. So lobbyists can lobby, but they can't lobby for themselves as a candidate or another candidate.
Ms. Wolf.
Commissioner Gordon, Treasurer Meyer, yes, and it does specifically under the definition for that campaign activity, we excluded campaign activity does not include general political discussion or advocacy. So a lobbyist can come in and advocate for their position. The legislature, the elected officials can put forth their policies and engage in the political discussion that the state facilities are for.
Thank you. Superintendent, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So speaking about the photo that you just addressed, but if that photo is used for advertising virtually with a link that when clicking that photo or a video filmed in the Capitol per se, and then can be clicked on to then go to a site to donate, would that then be unacceptable?
Ms. Wolf.
Commissioner Gordon, Superintendent Dagenfelder, I think that is one where I have to give a lawyer's answer, and I apologize that it would somewhat depend. So if a candidate for office decides to do a photo shoot for the purpose of their campaigning materials, that may fall within the prohibited activity versus they are at an event that is being hosted in a state facility for a public purpose and a photo is taken. I would view those as two different situations. So I do believe, and this is something that if the commission would like clarification on use of the facilities, under our current rules, casual use would include coming in and taking photos. So we do have people who come in and take their senior photos on the steps of the Capitol, and that's not a generally public event. So that would be similar with a campaign photo, but we wouldn't allow them a permit to come in after hours or to have exclusive use of the space for that activity. So that is an area where there may be some natural outgrowth amendments that we would want to look at for clarifying media in the Capitol. So coming in to do videos and coming in for photo shoots that are solely related to campaign activity.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, and I want to go online. I don't know if the Secretary or Senator Landon or Representative Angelos or Senator Driscoll and of course Representative Nicholas. Secretary Gray, any comments?
I'm listening and evaluating. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Angelos, I see your hand up, so there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I just want to echo what the superintendent said. As legislators, we have our photos taken when we come in at the very first of a session, and if we buy the rights to that photo, which I have a digital file buying the rights, then we are allowed to use that in campaign materials. But it was taken, down in the annex. And so that would be another question that I would have, that there's people using those right now. Are we going to sign something that into law or into rule that's going to get somebody into trouble that had no intent to? So I would like a clarification on that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Representative. And I guess being somewhat responsive, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're really talking about, if we proceed today, it's putting them out for comment. We'll be operating under the current rules. Is that a correct assumption?
Chairman Gordon, yes, that would be the correct assumption. So if we put these out for public comment, the current rules are still in place until after the public comment, after public comments have been addressed, and then after they've been approved by the commission and uploaded for final approval. So it would be a minimum of 45 days, closer to 75 days before these rules would go into effect to allow anyone with concerns to address them.
Thank you. Senator Landon, any?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Not to get too far into the weeds, but I think this is a question for Ms. Wold. We do define campaign contribution, but what about the case where efforts are being made to influence legislation, for example? Would our rule cover situations like that, wherein influence is provided to a legislator who may not even be a candidate?
Ms. Wolf, so I think this is sort of non-campaign related contributions delivered during maybe session time or something.
Chairman Gordon, Senator Landon, the SBC has somewhat limited authority. They control state facilities. And I do believe that the question addresses certain areas where the governor in his role as the head of the state and the legislature in monitoring the activities of their own members would be the appropriate authorities to answer that question as opposed to SBC. So to some extent, yes, the rules would address certain campaign-related contributions, but they do not specifically address non-campaign related payments. And that is to some extent within the legislature's purview over their members and the ethics of their own members rather than within SBC. SBC controls the facilities, not the people so much.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Wold, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll let follow up, and then I'm going to go to Senator Driscoll and then Representative.
Yeah, the one thing I was wondering about is that is there uniformity between picture taking within when the session is in and when the session is out? Middle of summer, are those different rules on pictures than they are when the session is in or in the connector? It seems like you've got maybe a lot of different zones and different times, and just those are the things that I'm just curious about.
Madam.
Chairman Gordon, Treasurer Meyer. So with the casual use of the Capitol, it is typically subject to the SBC rules. However, in certain areas, particularly during the legislative session, the legislature can adopt their own rules, and that area is broader during the legislative session. So there are certain meeting rooms, there are certain corridors that become legislative during the session, and then they return to SBC the rest of the year. So I have not reviewed LSO's rules as far as their facilities to determine if they are different. They do generally adopt SBC's rules as to their spaces, which would mean that it would be consistent throughout. But they are free to adopt different rules.
Thank you, Counselor. Senator Driscoll, any comment?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Not a lot other than as far as the rules that, at least in the Senate, we've changed them almost yearly on how we handle pitch taking. And we've done different rules through the years as far as what we allow and don't allow. I think we're really getting pretty complicated and long ways down the road on this. This may end up being a lot more difficult than it looks. And I think they've kind of alluded to that, but I think we need to tread pretty carefully going forward, particularly on just the photo end of it. I think that's really can be taken wrong and construed wrong, and going back to public spaces and First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Nicholas. No comment. All right. Madam Secretary, anything additional?
Mr. Chairman, not a legal mind and absolutely relied on legal counsel to draft these. Photographs are not addressed at all in the rules anywhere. The executive order is printed on pages 25 and 26. And perhaps, if aligning the rules more closely with federal thinking, but if that's not, because it has kind of expanded beyond campaign, the executive order mentions campaign activity, and it mentions campaign donations. And so that's the intent of bringing them forward, and perhaps, a general concept of how you might like them revised would be helpful if it seems they're causing more questions than necessary.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Madam Auditor, I see you poised to push your button.
Mr. Chairman, no, I appreciate the SCD bringing these forward. I am struggling a little bit with the broadening from the executive order, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I just haven't really had a chance to sit and think on that. And I know we keep coming back to photo taking, but I think that is probably going to be one of the biggest and most common issues that comes up, where it's unclear whether it's allowed, and or lots of complaints that people are doing it or aren't doing it in the right or wrong areas. And then the further complication as to you can do it in area A and it may be legal during part of the year and in violation of the rules during another part. And so if we do, I guess where I am right now perhaps is if we did want to maybe not put these out yet today, but go back to the drawing board a little bit, maybe narrowing it more to align with the executive order. I guess I do have one maybe last question for council. maybe just what do the rules provide that the executive order isn't doing?
Governor
Counselor.
Gordon, Auditor Racines. So in the executive order, we have the whereas clauses, which are the introductory statements to the executive order. And then we have the now therefore, which is the actual ordering. So within the executive order, it does limit or prohibit solicitation, delivery, and acceptance of campaign donations while in a space owned or leased by the state. Leading up to that prohibition is the wherefore statement that it's important to prohibit campaign activity in state facilities to protect the integrity of and ensure public trust in state government. So the campaign activity is slightly broader under the proposed rules than just accepting campaign contributions. The definition, any act or event designed or intended to obtain, transmit, deliver, or accept campaign contributions. So that would be similar to what is in the executive order. And then including drafting campaign speeches, statements, press releases, or literature, completion of the YCFIS reports, creations or issuance of a campaign mailing, and the holding of a meeting on campaign resources. So those are the activities that are prohibited that are beyond the scope of what was in the executive order. And the commission can limit that definition if they so desire. We do have the definition of campaign contributions, so the prohibition could be on campaign contributions on state facilities. We did, when drafting this, try to stick with similar campaigning activities as the federal, as there's federal prohibitions on, which is really on the use of state resources for campaigning. So using the state mailing facilities to mail out your campaign flyers. That's not necessarily an appropriate use of state facilities to, clog up the mail room with 5,000 pamphlets. So that was kind of where we were going with the additions, but it is focusing on campaign activities.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of gray areas here. Some people do press releases almost routinely, in different areas. And so press releases are basically to, I think, inform the populace, but sometimes I think they're used primarily for campaigning purposes. So that's a gray area. I think the completion of the YCFIS reports, that is actually I think a service from the Secretary of State, and especially, on people that have never done them before, new. So that one I think could be taken out of there. And just the way this is reading, I know if it was a colon instead of semicolon, it would probably mean that you couldn't do those things if you were trying to obtain a campaign contribution. But a semicolon, I think it's doesn't say that the way it reads. So I can see some of these things would be, illegal, if it was for obtaining a contribution. But if it wasn't for obtaining a contribution, on the face of it, a press release is a press release. The press release says, hey, we've done this, and by the way, send $1,000, then yeah, that's illegal. So I think it's a lot of it is in the circumstances that's attached to it. Just that and if you look at, the federal government, they got franking privileges. My gosh, I don't know how many letters I get from people who has franking privileges. We don't in this state, and I think it's probably a good thing, but. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Madam Secretary, it strikes me that we have a rules committee. I can't remember if the superintendent or the auditor are on that. Have they had a chance to review these?
We have not.
Mr. Chairman, no, we did not
Okay.
schedule a working group meeting, whereas the working group meetings heavy lifting was, in my impression, the lifting between changing the 1997 rules to the 2021 rules. That was a heavy lift that required a lot of deliberation and forethought, but definitely, working towards the special meeting, the revisions between the department and AG's office. The rules were released in a draft for the first view of commission members on Thursday of last week.
Okay. Well, I would ask the chairman of the working group, what your thoughts are. I think there are some questions that come up here. Of course, if they get launched, they're open to public comment. Some may be pretty substantial, but others may not. And I'm just curious, I know it's a busy cycle. I understand that everybody's running for office, but I also understand these probably won't come into play until after that time. That's not to say that delay is really the benefit here, but what are your thoughts? I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. So Madam Auditor and then Madam Superintendent.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And again, not maybe having as much sitting and thinking time as I would have liked. I think if the commission chooses to move forward with rules, I would want to tailor them to your executive order, but also not redo what is already done in statute. Because when I think about there's receiving or giving campaign contributions, I feel like that's fairly straightforward in the definitions, but it's the other campaign activity, which I think, to the treasurer's point, there's just a lot of gray area, and where it's however many examples we come up with, there's going to be others. And I think it's open to misinterpretation. And then in the third bucket are things that I'm going to say no is wrong. For example, using state mail to send out. Well, we don't need, in my mind, my knee-jerk reaction, we don't need to write rules for that because that's already very prohibited. That's already very clearly prohibited by statute. So we don't need, in my mind, we don't need a rule that says you can't expend state resources on your campaign because that's already very clearly covered by statute. To me, the big gray area is if you have your photo taken on the steps in the rotunda, that's going to be misinterpreted 12 different ways if we pass rules that say that. And that is very much, yes, it is on state property, but it is very much a public area where we welcome anyone to come in and go out, and they haven't expended state resources by that. So that's I think where I would like to see this set of rules going forward if we want to move forward. I mean, again, I think the other question is, are we doing what do we want to do that isn't in the executive order? And I think not a whole lot, at least coming from my point. So if the commission's desire is for the rules committee to take this up and maybe craft it more narrowly, I'd be happy to. anyway, that's my thought right now is if we were going to move forward, I'd maybe like them to see more narrowly so we're not introducing all this confusion and not duplicating what's already in law.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would echo some of those comments in particular of what we're trying to accomplish from rule that the EO does not put in place. And then my initial thought was, well, I think we either move forward today simply with the contributions piece and then at a later time discuss, those other elements to it. However, those start to overlap. As I mentioned, if you have something online of a photo or a video and you can click on that to be able to donate, does that constitute soliciting a campaign donation in the same way that it would be just face-to-face with an individual? So I worry about us being in a place that we can move these forward as is. But I'm curious of staff or maybe AG's office of what they perceive the rules doing that the EO would not. Or is it just to memorialize those longer term?
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I'll direct that first to the Secretary and then to Ms. Wolf. So,
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent, the purpose of bringing them forward was because of the direction in the executive order. So,
thank you. Ms. Wolf.
Chairman Gordon and Superintendent Tagenfelder, did we lose her? Oh, there we go. So again, the definition did try to incorporate that last whereas clause on the importance of prohibiting campaign activity in state facilities to protect the integrity and ensure public trust in state government. However, we can narrow the prohibited activity to the campaign contribution piece and adjust those rules. I would note that narrowing the scope of the proposed rule does seem to be a natural outgrowth following public comment. So if the commission did decide to move forward, that does seem to be within the ability to amend the proposed rule following public comment. However, if the commission would like the AG's office to work with the working group and the department to provide an amended draft before the next meeting, we can certainly do that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Well, I'm going to ask the chairman and Mr. Treasurer. I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I think we can get the contribution once. The campaign activity, I think, is kind of out there. I remember times when, we take pictures with constituents when they visit my office in the Capitol, and so if one of those were used by, say, a party upstate and say, well, come meet the treasurer or the auditor or anybody, that they're in town and come support their campaign. So now, is that a violation? I think there's some clear lines that you could put on pictures to say that, this is the people's house, but when the legislature is in session, it's the legislator's house. But if you're in the people's house, then yeah, you can take pictures with anybody you want to, use them for anything you want to, but you can't essentially, you can't, like inside my office, that's the state's office. That's not the people's house. But inside the corridors here in the connector and in the Capitol, that's the people's house. So, that's where I think that's a fairly definable way to do that, in that regard. Then you don't get unintended consequences. But, I think that's something that we need to look at. I think on the thing, and I'd really like the Secretary of State to his opinion on whether or not he can help a new candidate or any candidate fill out their YCFIS report. Mr. Secretary, I think every other Secretary of State, help candidates fill out their YCFIS report. So they didn't get in trouble and dotted their I's and crossed their T's and got things done. So I'm not sure how your office would handle it. Could you help us out here?
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Secretary, if you have any response.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that the rule allows for us to assist in that. I don't share the concern with the treasurer, and I think we should go to comment and narrow this at a later time if the comment is conducive to that. But I'm a little baffled here. I mean, the chairman's expressed a lot of concern on this issue and yet now seems to be backing off. And it just seems like this was a one-time sort of almost stunt in the legislative session to try to bring this up rather than actually do something about it. And I want something to be done to address this issue. And so I've been sitting here and just very troubled because I think people want this issue to be addressed. And I just, the way that during the session this was handled, I thought that this would be at the forefront, but now it's, hey, we're going to dither and delay. And it's raising a lot of questions in my mind. I think this needs to get done. We need to address this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I think we'll note that you're troubled. Let's see whatever the commission wants to do on this. I mean, we can go.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with Rule 2A in the comment process.
All right. Motion's been made. Is there support for the motion? Is there support for the motion? Is there support for the motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Oh, thank you. Motion's made for discussion. I'm just going to say, let's go forward. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nays? Mr. Secretary, did you have an aye on that?
Of course, yes, I made the motion. Aye.
Yeah, well, you didn't say it. So.
Okay, I'm not sure you heard me, but aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Yeah, Mr.
Moves
Chairman.
forward to public comment.
Yeah, I think so. But if after a time when maybe I guess it is the auditor and the superintendent, if they've got any ideas on how to look at some of these things here, the one that really bothers me is the one that I think that goes to the Secretary of State's office, is whether they can help, because it's spelled out in there. I don't believe it should be spelled out because I don't want to get the folks at the Secretary of State's office being complicit with something that's illegal. That's basically their business.
Right.
Well,
But
then Mr. Chairman, could I?
Mr. Secretary, I have the floor and then I'll recognize you. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, these are open for public comment. They are not in effect. They have to go through the whole process. That whole process can well take us beyond the general election. And so they will be open for people to talk about. Mr. Secretary, I'll recognize you now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I certainly, Mr. Treasurer, if you have an amendment that you'd like that you think we need to address it, I think that's fine. But I think we need to move forward and in addressing this concern. That's what the EO and in this sort of media created deal that the EO said that this needed to move forward. And so I think that's what the commission's doing here. So.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll allow one, maybe two
I
more
guess the
comments on this.
parliamentarian
Mr.
question.
Treasurer, I have the floor.
Okay.
I'll allow one or two more comments on this, and I think this has been completed. So, Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah, I think because it's already out to public comment that it probably would be out of order to make an amendment at this time, but I don't know. I'm asking the chair on that because the only thing I would say is that strike completion of the YCFIS reports, just to make sure that there's state employees that don't get hung up into something that necessarily is just normal activity.
I think that could be noted as a comment. Thank you. Thank you. Next matter.
Mr. Chairman, commission members, Item 2 addresses statutory changes enacted by legislature through 2025 House Enrolled Act 17. Legislation directed the Construction Department, State Building Commission, Community College Commission, School Facilities Commission, and the University of Wyoming to promulgate rules necessary to implement the act. Those provisions became effective in 2025. Since enactment, the department has already implemented the substantive requirements of the legislation through its project management, major maintenance, capital renewal, and facility planning processes. The purpose of these rule revisions is to conform the commission's rules to the governing statutes and to formally incorporate those practices into rule. Commission members will find on pages 48 and 58 of the packet the statutory changes affecting the State Construction Department and State Building Commission statutes. The proposed revisions to Chapter 1, 3, and 4 directly correspond to those legislative changes and align the rules with current law and current department practice. Staff recommends forwarding these proposed revisions for public comment.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the commission? Do you want to walk through the changes, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, they are exhaustive. In large part, pages 27, 28, and 29 are the same as what was printed in your April SBC packet, describing the general purpose of the changes. Chapter 1, Section 2, it amends the authority to reference the new statute revisions. Chapter 1, Section 4, it adds definitions, implementing the new language and practices in the House Enrolled Act 17, including adding definitions for community college district, facility condition index, routine maintenance records, and strategic facility plan. It revises the definition of life cycle cost and management to incorporate strategic planning, life cycle cost, and long-term stewardship. Chapter 1, Section 5 authorizes the secretary to collect and maintain facility condition, utilization, life cycle, routine maintenance, major maintenance, and capital construction data from agencies, community college districts, and the University of Wyoming. Chapter 3, authority, is amended to incorporate statutory responsibilities relating to capital renewal, major maintenance, routine maintenance, and the 20-year statewide strategic facility plan. Chapter 3, Section 2, the purpose is amended to expand the chapter to include capital renewal, routine maintenance, the 20-year statewide strategic facility plan, 5-year needs assessments, and related reporting systems. Chapter 3, Section 3, prioritization criteria for construction, renovation, capital renewal, major maintenance, and routine maintenance needs of state building was amended. Chapter 3, Section 4, 20-year statewide strategic facility plan is amended to replace the references to the statewide real property master plan with statewide strategic facility plan, revises the planning horizon to 25 years in lieu of 20 years in lieu of 25 years, incorporates facility condition assessments, FCI data, deferred maintenance information, routine maintenance expenditures, utilization data, sustainability information, and expenditure monitoring requirements. These are all things that the department has been working with all agencies in our facility planning process since 2022. Chapter 3, Section 5 is the agency level strategic facility plan amended. Previously, it was referred to as the agency level master plan, changes the terminology and defines the responsibility included in statute regarding preventive and routine maintenance practices, utilization, resiliency considerations, and reporting. Chapter 3, Section 6, emergency construction, capital renewal, and renovation projects amended, expands emergency project authority to include capital renewal and major maintenance activities. Chapter 3, Section 7, management of construction, capital renewal, renovation, and major maintenance projects is amended to expand construction management responsibilities to include capital renewal projects and monitoring of agency routine maintenance practices per statute. Chapter 3, Section 8, needs assessments was amended to incorporate capital renewal and routine maintenance into 5-year needs assessments and statewide prioritization. Chapter 3, Section 9, agency reporting of facility condition and capital needs is amended to require reporting of facility condition, current replacement value, routine maintenance, expenditures, deferred maintenance, utilization data, and recommended capital projects, and to require maintenance of routine maintenance records sufficient to demonstrate stewardship and support life cycle planning. Chapter 3, Section 10 reiterates that standard procurement and contract documents are required. And the forms support competitive sealed bidding, competitive negotiation, and other procurement methods that are authorized by law. Chapter 3, Section 11, major maintenance formula amended, revised the section to reflect the Commission's responsibility to determine major maintenance recommendations using the formula adopted pursuant to 9-5-107G. This portion is huge. While the State Construction Department, while the Construction Management Division, since 2004 or so, has been calculating the major maintenance recommendations for all state facilities. It did not become part of statute until 2025. And so this is really great to include in the rules. Routine maintenance stewardship has been added to require agencies, community college districts, University of Wyoming to develop preventive maintenance schedules, maintain routine maintenance records, and provide information supporting statewide planning and life cycle assessment. Asset management. Chapter 3, Section 13, monitoring and reporting systems is added to require agencies, community college districts, the University of Wyoming to maintain systems for monitoring and reporting appropriations and expenditures related to capital construction, capital renewal, renovation, major maintenance, and routine maintenance. Chapter 4, Section 1, authority is amended to incorporate the statutory reference related to routine maintenance, major maintenance, capital renewal, and long-term facility stewardship. Chapter 4, Section 2, the purpose is amended to authorize agencies subject to the Commission's authority to adopt policies governing public buildings to incorporate life cycle stewardship, preventive maintenance, asset preservation, and support for the statewide strategic facility plan. Chapter 4, Section 3, State Facility Management, to require agencies to preserve state assets, implement preventive and routine maintenance programs, maintain maintenance records, incorporate facility condition and life cycle data into decision-making, and coordinate with construction management regarding strategic facility planning. Chapter 4, Section 4, Operation Management and Use Policies and Procedures are amended to require agencies to adopt policies supporting routine maintenance, preventive maintenance, energy efficiency, preservation of state property, employee training, maintenance procedures, internal controls, and facility stewardship. Chapter 4, Section 5, Occupancy, Use, Routine Maintenance, Major Maintenance, Capital Renewal, and Construction Projects is amended to revise the section title, clarify the routine maintenance activities may proceed without commission approval, and they do not alter facility scope, use, or capacity, to require coordination of major maintenance, capital renewal, and capital construction projects with construction management, to require maintenance schedules and records, require routine maintenance practices, supporting stewardship and asset preservation, and require agencies to provide facility condition, utilization, and expenditure information supporting statewide facility planning and budget development. In Chapter 4, Section 6, Asset Stewardship and Reporting, added to establish statewide stewardship, maintenance documentation, reporting, facility assessment, cooperation, and strategic facility planning responsibilities for agencies occupying public buildings. Chapter 4, sections 7 through 9 is amended and renumbered to incorporate facility stewardship considerations into legislative and judicial facility provisions, emergency building closures, and public health emergency policies. I would also like to highlight that the requirement for the strategic facility plan, the funding for that came to fruition and is effective July 1st. It is that effort that will assist all agencies in bringing these responsibilities together and to, if necessary, advocate for the funding for them to do so.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm going to ask the chairs of the Rules Committee, have you had a chance to review these?
Mr. Chairman, these have not gone through the Rules Committee.
Okay. So we're talking about roughly the same process. If we advance them, they go forward to comment, same timeline as the rules we just passed. I'm curious, Madam Secretary, have other affected agencies had a chance to review these, and have you gotten comments back?
Mr. Chairman, the only agency I have heard from is the University of Wyoming. They have reviewed them among their facility staff. They've had counsel review them, and they are in support and agree they are a straightforward adaptation of the law. And I believe Mr. Samp may be online if he would like to elaborate at all.
Sure, and I can pull him up in a second. I just, you know, out of curiosity, if there are comments that come, are they helpful generally to sort of improve the rule?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. Every comment improves our process, all feedback.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Samp, if you're willing, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, from the University of Wyoming's perspective, we have reviewed the proposed rules, do feel that they closely align with the statute and don't form any sort of undue burden on our agency as far as implementation goes. So we are fully in support.
Okay. Madam Director, if you've got comments, if there's no objection from the commission.
Thank you, Governor Gordon. My name is Patricia Bach, A&I Director. And I would like to say that I've thoroughly reviewed all of it, but I have not. It's extensive or exhaustive in here. And I would recommend, instead of getting into the nitty-gritty on some of it, I would recommend that the Rules Committee take a look at these rules, and maybe we can do it quickly. I'm on the Rules Committee. I got these yesterday. I apologize. I have not had a chance. My attorney has looked at them. She found out about them today. So, and talked with Tabitha, a very good conversation. And she would like to have more time to review them as well.
All right. I'm trying to think if either of the chairmen, I can't remember which of the legislators were on this. Senator Landon or Senator Driscoll, were you on the Rules Committee? And I guess the same would go for Representative Nicholas or Angelos. Do either, I mean, the whole point of the various committee structures was to be able to blend both the legislative and the executive functions a little bit, at least for the discussion. So I didn't know if any of you were on the Rules Committee.
Governor, I believe I'm on Rules and the Master Plan Subcommittee, but have not seen these rules.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll open up the commission and others if they have questions. Questions? No questions. What is the pleasure of the board on these rules? Mr. Treasurer.
How long do you think it would take the Rules Committee, you guys to get together and actually go through this stuff? A month, 2 months, September sometime maybe? Or when?
Madam Auditor.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I feel like we're all sort of fumbling around here, at least I am. The last big thing that the Rules Working Group took up, I believe, was surrounding some of the leasing language about a year ago. So, I mean, again, I think the Rules Committee is happy to take it up. I can't, I mean, I imagine it would probably take us several weeks at the minimum, given everybody's summer schedules, to try to find time to sit down and be productive.
And Madam Auditor, I don't want to speak for the Secretary because she can speak for herself, but I think one of the concerns here is that you're going to lose 3 members of this commission, one way or another this year, which leaves to at least 3 members of the commission.
Yeah.
You may well be the only one left.
So Mr. Chairman, I again, not being an attorney, I think we could probably go either way on these. We could certainly, there's 3, I guess I see 3 potential paths forward. We could go ahead and move them forward today, knowing that they may need tweaks that hopefully come within the natural outgrowth or ingrowth as maybe. We could get together the Rules Working Group and attack it that way. That would probably extend the timeline the most, I guess. Or we could simply give everyone the chance to review them further. I think just it was sort of a perfect storm where folks haven't and this is the largest set. And so we could potentially just table this issue to the July meeting and maybe come forward with better commentary at that time.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that probably the Rules Committee extends it the longest, but it also may be the most elegant in terms of sort of taking care of concerns.
Timeline, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm gonna recognize Director Bach, then I'm gonna recognize you, and I obviously want to give the Secretary a chance to comment. So, Director Bach.
Thank you, Governor Gordon, committee. The one thing that I would say, I'd like the idea of having it quicker without the Rules Committee, if we can get that done. The one thing I'm concerned about is if it's brought forward and approved today, I'm going to have to make comment during public comment that I think maybe could get done in a better way than having it public comment and then have the timeline start all over again. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Treasurer, and then
yeah, I'm just if we're backing this up and let's say we want to have something to vote on in December, so it's put to bed before the end of the year. If we start that with the end date, usually we're what, 7th or 10th, something like that in December. We back that up, allow the Rules Committee to work as much as they can until we have to basically put this into public comment and move forward and get it done in that time period. That's what I'd like to see happen, but whether or not the comment periods will extend past that, that's something I don't know the minutia of the process.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, it is absolutely the pleasure of the board. We will proceed as you desire or not. Yeah, we look forward to your recommendation.
So I'm just walking through, and Madam Auditor, maybe you can help me. You're better at math, I'm sure.
And I do apologize.
Yeah.
I need an emergency.
Yeah.
Great.
If we were able to work something that's somewhat informally between now and the July meeting. And then we move that forward, then we'd have 45 days for comment. That takes us sort of into the middle of October. And I think we still could meet that timeline. Does,
Let's do that.
okay. Yeah, if that'll work. I haven't recognized anybody online yet. Representative Angelos, any comments, thoughts? Senator Driscoll? You're still muted if you were, there you go.
No, I don't have any. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm inept at running my screen.
Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further. I'm happy to join the rest of the Rules Committee and work these, or would be happy knowing state construction, pretty comfortable with all the effort, and it could go forward. It's up to all of you. So I'm supportive.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
I don't have any comment. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Webb.
Mr. Chairman, Dave Webb, State Construction Department, Construction Management Supervisor. The next item is 2C.
Well, I thought we were going to move forward with something. I didn't know if you had a comment or.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Auditor.
I would move that we table. I'm sorry, what agenda item is this?
To be
To
or not to be?
be to our July 27th meeting. And before I get a second, because I know it's not debatable, I would note that I will not be specific as to whether A&I can bring their comments to SCD and work that out, and or we could call a rules working group within that necessary, but my motion would be to table it specifically to July 27th.
Is there support for the on? It's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That motion is tabled. We now move on to, do we need to take a break, Mr. Webb?
It would be beneficial, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we have an idea when perhaps the secretary might be able to return?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay. We'll break for about 10 minutes. Thank you. Madam Secretary. I believe we're back. Thank you. Mr. Webb was terrific. Sorry. We're underway. So we tabled we tabled item 2B to the 28th, and maybe some work can be done between here and then. And we'll still be back able to complete under this commission. Is I think the intent of the commission. So,
And Mr. Chairman, do we mean the July 27th meeting?
yes,
The regular
Yep.
meeting?
Yep.
Okay,
very good.
very good. Thank you for that. My apologies for the abrupt exit. Are we considering that for 2B, 2C, 2D?
2C. Yeah, we want to see what's coming up.
Okay. 2C is related to, it contains proposed revisions related to unmanned aircraft systems, commonly referred to as drones. The revisions update definitions, establish operational expectations for commission-controlled properties, clarify authorization requirements, and provide standards for governmental or other approved uses. The intent is to provide consistent framework for drone operations while protecting public safety, security, privacy, and facility operations. On page 88, you'll see an email that I sent earlier this year. We don't get inquiries all that often, but when we do, sometimes they'll come from Division O. Hey, can you respond to this person? They want to use a drone. Can you channel them to the right location? Sometimes the questions will, they go to various places. So having, just a place for the policy to be referred to as federal regulations prevail because of the FAA would be very helpful, and staff recommends forwarding these for proposed revisions for public comment. I did have some conversation earlier today, are all tiny drones, even like pocket drones, are they also applicable here? And my take would be yes, but I'm not certain on that. So discussion.
All right, Ms. Wolf, do you want to add some color to that, and then I can go around the commission?
Chairman Gordon, the definition of unmanned systems is fairly broad. Most of the systems, if they are subject to the FAA regulations, when you start up the drone, it gives you a prompt. Whereas like the little bitty toy ones typically do not. But that is within the FAA's process where the manufacturers of those typically identify whether it's subject to FAA.
Thank you. And since we're talking about drones, I would just note, I don't want to embarrass you, Ms. Wolf, but you were calling me Commissioner Gordon, and I was thinking of Batman at the time, so thank you. Anyway, around the commission, Representative Nicholas, any questions, Treasurer?
Question I have, and I apologize for not going through this word by word, but does this allow drone use over private property without the permission of the landowner?
Mr. Chairman, these rules are about state facilities and state property.
Okay.
And the FAA rules are generally, they encompass all airspace. And generally, it's prohibited within all of the city limits.
City limits, airports and stuff like that, I understand. But we don't have any statutes or rules or anything that says anything about somebody flying over your property without permission. Or do we? Or it's probably not relevant to this, so I'll have to find that out from another source that has more legal expertise.
Ms. Wolf.
Chairman Gordon, Treasurer Meyer, we can discuss this after the meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Racines.
No comment, Mr. Chairman. I think that these seem like a reasonable step to be able to have something ready reference for the public. The
Okay.
drone flying public, of which I am not a member.
Commissioner Gray.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dagenfelder.
I'm all good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Driscoll.
I'm good, thank you.
Senator Landon.
No comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Representative Angelos.
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board then?
Would
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, Would-
Madam Superintendent.
would begin the rulemaking process for item 2C.
Second.
It's been moved, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Probably not. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I believe that motion carries. I think I got both Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Dagenfelder at the same time. Is that correct?
I'm an aye.
Yep, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next item is item 2D. Item 2D contains proposed revisions to commission meeting procedures. These revisions are intended to improve administrative efficiency, provide additional scheduling flexibility, and reduce the need for special meetings solely to address calendar adjustments. The proposed language reflects commission experience over the past several years and seeks to maintain transparency and public access while reducing unnecessary administrative burden. Staff recommends forwarding these proposed revisions for public comment.
Madam Secretary, I want to commend you on the research on finding those meetings that constantly run afoul of others. Commissioners, if there's anything here, please either raise your hand or speak up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Madam, or if Mr. Treasurer, sorry, Commissioner.
I guess I need a haircut help. I guess that I'm glad you do this. I wish they did it with the WCDA and the Wyoming retirement system and all these other different things that I'm on, because I have to essentially skip one to go to the other one every other month on these things. And it just is frustrating that it'd be nice to have a clearinghouse that would actually be able to go in there that was, you know, electronic, and all these things would pop up and people get back like, well, no, you're blocked by this member and this member and this member. But I guess that's down the road. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Now I can say Madam Auditor.
Mr. Chairman, so currently the commission meets on the second Wednesday of all 4 months, and we're proposing changing it to the third Wednesday. I guess my only question is, in terms of the legislature and Frontier Days, why would we think that the third Wednesday isn't worse than the second Wednesday of January and July?
Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Auditor, just in looking at the historical rescheduling on page 92, it usually did lean more towards a later time in January over the last 19 years, or a later time in July. It's also the holidays that precede those that complicate setting up briefings and packet production. We're willing to take any suggestion, but just in thinking of how it's worked out historically, that's why.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Questions, comments? If there are none, what's the pleasure of the board? It's been moved to approve the amended meeting schedule and rule change. Yeah. Is there support?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
It's-
And
It's been seconded by the
just to
auditor.
be clear, we're not approving the rule change, right? We're just still putting these out for comment, right? And
That's
so
correct.
if there's mass discontent at our proposed schedule, we will hear about it and not pass them. Okay, great. Thank you.
Very good. Madam Secretary.
Or, Mr. Chairman, Madam Auditor, if someone has a crystal ball that could please comment in the public comments about what dates are the actual best dates, that would be great. But not having that, we'll know we have flexibility.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I believe that motion carries as well. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, item 3A concerns the proposed memorandum of understanding between the State Building Commission and the Capitol Square subcommittee that has been working toward, that is not what I meant to say. Memorandum of a standing between the State Building Commission and Management Council. The draft has been extensively reviewed by participating entities and represents a collaborative effort to clarify governance responsibilities, project administration, contracting authority, expenditure reporting, and stewardship of Capitol Square preservation activities. The committee's direct involvement in developing the document, the committee chairman may wish to provide additional background or comments before the commission discussion begins. There has been additional conversation related to this MOU since yesterday, and I welcome anyone's comment on it going
Sure.
forward.
Sure. With the leave of the commission, I'd like Chief Perkins, I think over there, you can sit next to Councilor Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Drew Perkins, the Governor's Office. I apologize for and I've got some extra copies if people want to come up here. There's some extra copies of what we're talking about. With our special counsel on extended absence, it's left it only with general counsel, and so I was pressed into service very recently to help with this. What you have before you is in looking at this and these are technical revisions, I believe. And so if you go back and look at the statute that this is dealing with in 95106F, in particular, the statute itself says that this MOU is to be between the commission and the management council. And so what this does in the first paragraph there, as you see, is it just simply deletes the state construction department as a party to this, which is not included in the statute. Again, the parties in the statute are to be the state building commission and the management council. The department, the state construction department, it works at the direction of the commission. And so what we did, if you go to page 3 of 5, you'll see we have deleted the responsibilities of the department since they're no longer a party, and we've moved those up into the responsibilities of the commission. So basically, that's almost verbatim, just lifted and replaced in another place. So it's under the responsibilities of the commission. So now it's the change is simply that the commission shall direct the department, which is the Wyoming State Construction Department, who shall with LSO staff support the committee, including service the fiscal and contracting agency for the expenditure of appropriations unless designated by another agency. Then, and which is other than just some minor changes, that's the exact language that is in 8, but just bring that under the commission. In addition, the department, as you see down there, the department may access available funds within the Capitol Square preservation account as necessary to discharge its duties under the MOU, which is, again, was under 8, is now under 6. The department or other agency, as directed by the commission, shall provide quarterly expenditure project status reports to the committee and staff, the committee, the commission, the management council. And then we added this, which is directly almost verbatim out of the statute itself, out of 95106F. I think it's, I can't remember if it's Roman at 1 or 2, but then just adds this, that the commission shall also provide for maintenance and preservation of the Capitol building and grounds and the extension through the General Services Division of the Department of Accounting and of Administration and Information. So although I say those are the changes, then the only thing it would do is strike, and the only other thing it does is, other than renumbering because of moving the language out of 8 and striking the State Construction Department as a signatory, and just, so it's a technical thing that I think just basically aligns this directly with the statute that was cited and which was the direction of the legislature to do this and to provide for the joint governance over the Capitol and the other events that happen, things in the square and these mixed legislative and administrative spaces. And with that, Mr. Chairman, Governor, that concludes my explanation. I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, Treasurer Meyer.
Yeah, so I know that A&I is in here, but is there a good firewall between in this document between the commission, the construction department, and A&I on who does what, and who's on first base, and what's the name of the guy on third?
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, excuse me, Mr. Treasurer. Yes, I mean, I think that's, if you look at the responsibilities of the department, that's the clear delineation. The department has those responsibilities. Those are unchanged, and those were just moved into now paragraph 6. So that's the delineation there. Then again, the statute, which provides for the responsibilities of A&I, is the maintenance and preservation of the Capitol buildings, grounds, and extension is through the General Services Division, which is basically language directly from the statute. So that's the division of labor and responsibility between A&I and the State Construction Department.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf, any particular color on these proposed amendments?
Chairman Gordon, I've reviewed the proposed changes and I believe they are consistent with statute. I will also note from the statute that it does also anticipate that there may be other agreements with the department, with A&I as necessary to implement this MOU. So to the extent that any clarification is needed for the roles of the department and the General Services Division, those can be addressed in additional agreements as necessary.
Okay, Madam Secretary, and then I believe the auditor may have some questions. So,
Mr. Chairman, it does seem to be not a legal mind again. It seems to capture the very same things that it did. I think the template where the among the 3 parties came from was based on the 2023 MOUs that were executed between SBC Management Council, State Construction Department, SBC Management Council, and A&I for a couple of different things. So seems like the same way to do it.
okay. Madam Auditor, I think you had brought to my attention how important this MOU is.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't so much have any questions, but just a little background. Of course, this is contemplated by, required to some extent by the statute. And what it contemplates is essentially the wayfinding subcommittee serving as this body for now, and then come January 27th, the structure would remain the same. And in theory, those 2 committees remain the same. But of course, each year they could be reappointed by the governor or the legislature. I think the subcommittee on wayfinding and exhibits, as imperfect as we are, I think we have proven ourselves to be a very useful tool in hashing out in the weeds issues, particularly in shared space, which is never fun, but as we can see throughout the Capitol, has been really fruitful. This committee, as the subcommittee operates now, we are not a deciding body. This MOU is between, as you can see, SBC and Management Council. The committee contemplated here is only a recommending body. So none of that changes. And really the most pressing thing about getting this done is the statute requires this MOU to happen before that funding can be released for projects that have been required and put into law by the legislature, particularly the acoustics project, the break room, et cetera, et cetera. This MOU has been vetted thoroughly by the Wayfinding Subcommittee. We took it up at our meeting last month in depth, and it has gone through LSO as well. The changes that that council has presented, while they may seem extensive, that I would agree that they are basically moving the deck chairs around and checking some boxes. So I don't have any concerns. They don't substantively change the agreement that we have been hashing out over the last several months. So, Mr. Chairman, I feel good about this. It came with the full unanimous recommendation of the subcommittee, and so I think we're ready to get this one done. And as Tabitha mentioned, the statute does refer to memoranda, not memorandum. So as additional things come up, or we need to define specific roles of specific agencies, that is not only possible, but even contemplated by 95106F.
You, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And then I want to ask if the co-chair of the Rules Committee or the Wayfinding Committee, sorry, Senator Landon, Mr. Treasurer, if you'll be okay, let me just ask Senator Landon if he has any other comments to make, and I'll come to you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And as usual, my co-chairman did a superb job of rounding up everything and getting it in the corral for you. Great job by Auditor Racinas. This MOU, I do want to pass along that the director, Director Obrecht, has taken a good look and is very comfortable with what we're considering today and wanted me to pass that along to all of you. He could not be here today, but on behalf of the legislative branch, we feel like this is good to go, and want to commend your legal staff as well as Mr. Obrecht and others who took a look at this. I think it's ready to go with these technical changes. And I really commend this to you, Governor. I hope that you have found it to be beneficial. That subcommittee, it's been a pleasure to serve on that. And I do think that we've brought to you work that's been pretty well vetted and ready to go. So I think in the future it would really benefit both branches of government. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of in 6, looking at maybe canceling that off to an A and a B. We've got 2 departments in this. You got the department, which is the Wyoming State Construction Department in 4. And then, but we also characterize A and I as the division of the Department of A and I. And I'm wondering whether or not after we should put, after commissions, do an A and then a small a parentheses, and then after council down there in the second to the last sentence, before the commission shall also provide maintenance and preservation, put a B there, because that would denote that A was part of the state construction department, and B that the A&I would be responsible for providing maintenance preservation to capital building grounds and the extension through the General Service Division, the Department of A&I and information. So I'm wondering if that's two departments in there, or whether the way this is structured, you're contemplating that A&I does everything in 6. But I think if A&I doesn't do everything in 6, then I think we do need to separate those out because there are two departments doing two different things. So you need to break them up with an A and a B. But
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Perkins, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, Governor, Mr. Treasurer, I mean, there's no problem with breaking those into subparagraphs. The only thing I would just point out that if you look up in 4, that the Wyoming State Construction Department is there defined as department. So when you're referred to the department, it is defined in 4 above. And so, and then in A and with reference to A&I, then it's the full name. But there certainly is no problem. I don't see any problem with breaking them into some subparagraphs A and B. I think it does add some clarity.
yeah, that's what I'm looking at, Mr. Chairman, because we're using department in different areas, but we've got two departments. I just wanted to make sure that we had definitely outline what the responsibility was clear with both.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Treasurer.
I would make that, do we have this on the table?
We don't actually. I'd love to have somebody move this if that's possible, and then we can start.
I would move it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You can move it as a corrected version. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I would move it as a corrected version with the addition of the parentheses A, and in subsection 6 on the responsibilities of the commission A and B. So we have those things bifurcated and there's no gray.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's been moved. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second and maybe just add in, that structure of paragraph 6 with the understanding that no substantive changes will be made there, but with some license to remove ifs or not ifs, but commas, add lines, that sort of thing. So.
Remember and amend as necessary.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
So we're at discussion now. Is there any discussion on this matter? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays?
No.
Okay, I have the secretary as a no. Superintendent, I have you as an aye. That is correct. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Perkins. Thank you, Tabitha. So, thank you, Secretary. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, item 3B concerns authorization to proceed to bidding and construction procurement for the capital acoustics project and capital extension modifications projects. The work directed through legislative appropriations has completed planning, design, and construction document development. The projects are now prepared for competitive bidding and procurement. The requested action authorizes the State Construction Department to proceed with bidding and construction procurement utilizing funds previously appropriated by the legislature to the Capitol Square Preservation Account, which will soon be available to the State Construction Department.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Who would, Madam Secretary, thank you for the description. Does anybody want to take this away? Madam Auditor.
Mr. Chairman, subject to the desire of the commission, the wayfinding subcommittee has beat this horse and it is dead, but we can beat it some more in regards to the acoustics project. This has really been all hands on deck. As you know, the legislature has over the course of multiple years appropriated funds to try to solve acoustics challenges in the Capitol. And this has been, again, a couple year-long project. They appropriated money into a specific pot for the purposes of mainly of the acoustics project, a break room for custodial staff, which they currently do not have one. And I think that's the main, sorry, Secretary Norton, am I missing anything? Those are the two main things.
And Mr. Chairman, the broadcast studio.
Oh, yes, I knew there was something else. And
There we
again,
go.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. These things have all been very explicitly delineated in legislation passed and funding appropriated. And so we have plans for all of those. The acoustics project is the one we have probably spoken about the most on this committee. I'm happy to go through the PowerPoint in detail. I don't necessarily think that's necessary, but we're happy to. This again also involves primarily legislative space. So that will all be going through management council as well, because it particularly impacts the chambers primarily. And most of the portions that would impact executive branch space, for example, our ceremonial offices, are going to be changes to the HVAC system, et cetera. So not completely not visible changes. So like I said, I'm happy to delve in with my co-chair. We've been working this one a long time, and we can speak on it if desired.
And thank you for that update, and both co-chairs. I think probably this committee has heard about this for some time, and the acoustics problem is not new. It's not since the Capitol reconstruction. It's been a historic issue for the Capitol. It's a beautiful building, but it's hard to hear here. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would add that probably at 8 or 10 of our subcommittee meetings, we've gone into this in depth, and in particular at the last several have really hammered out a few last couple details on the worst spaces acoustically. And again, knowing that all of that, while it's a shared governance model, recognizing that really the overwhelming majority of the worst acoustical spaces are in purely legislative space. So all of this will go to management council for approval as well.
okay, thank you. Any comments? Any comments?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
And so what's the limiting principle here? I mean, what's the appropriation? $1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million? What is the appropriation in this account right now?
Mr. Chairman, 2.3 comes to mind, but Suzanne, I apologize. They've, and Mr. Secretary, they've put money in, and then they've put additional money in a couple few years. So it involves going to several session laws, but I want to say 2 million. And
yeah, off the top of my head, I was thinking it was about 2.3.
Yeah.
Representative Nicholas.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Secretary.
Commission members, I think it's higher than the 2.3 that with the two separate appropriations. I think it's closer to 3.8.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, closer to 3.8 appropriated by the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Treasurer.
I don't believe this auditorium is part of it yet, or I think, yeah, so I think it's out. So they're different areas and they're prioritized by primarily first legislative functionality.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Auditor.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, great question by the treasurer. Not necessarily prioritizing legislative space. The project prioritizes the worst spaces acoustically, and those happen to be legislative space. Yeah, particularly the chambers and the historic Supreme Court, which as it's the ones you guess based on your own experiences in those rooms, most likely. But yeah, joint appropriations room, historic Supreme Court, and the chambers, both for members on the floor and members of the public. Prioritizing both of those. While I think this came to bear because legislators were having trouble hearing, it's also really pervasive that members of the public can't hear what they're doing.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Auditor,
with that, I would move the director's recommendation on item 3B.
is there support for the auditor's motion? It's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, I'm a definite no on this. I know this has been a crusade for some time by a couple members in the legislature, but there's really no limiting principle here other than a multi-million-dollar appropriation. I really have not noted what they've never really established what the issue is here, and I know they've done a lot to try to address this already. And I'm just really concerned about this sort of trend of just continuing to dump money into this deal without any real limiting principle. So I am an adamant no. I'm very strongly opposed to this.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Further
Mr.
comment?
Chairman.
Further comment?
Yeah, I get shed a little
Mr.
light. I
Treasurer.
think the principle is that you want to have a lower amount of decibels and reverberation. So there you have functionality on the floor and that people can actually hear something in the galleries. So it all has to do with the, I guess, audio quality and hearing quality for the members and the general public. And the general public is important because they're trying to listen to what's said on the floor. And that's one of the reasons they're there, is so they can hear, not only see what's going on. That's the guiding principle, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, could I respond to that?
Mr. Secretary, sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, certainly we want to have a capital that is strong, and I believe it is strong. And I just think dumping millions of dollars into this, it's not been established what we're actually trying to address. And it just seems like there's just this ongoing crusade for, and then there'll be three more new things that will cost millions of dollars in this building. And I think at some point, we have to recognize that this building is beautiful. The citizens of Wyoming have invested a great deal of their money, and it needs to be maintained. But these discretionary projects that really have no limiting principle to them, I just think need to be rejected. So I'm going to be a no on this. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank-
Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this might be a question for the co-chairs, because my understanding was opposite of that this was identified of exactly where and specific appropriations that were not just going to be runaway spending, and that there was identified in the acoustical areas where the public couldn't hear. And so can you speak to that a little bit?
Any of the co-chairs? I'll turn that over to
Mr. Chairman.
Co-chairman Landon had his hand up, if that's okay. And then I'll come back to you, Madam Auditor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and great question, Superintendent. Absolutely. We go back to the previous Appropriations Committee, which worked very diligently on this, and at our request, they looked into it, and that's when the budget was put in place for us to go to work on helping folks who visit the Capitol to hear a little bit better when they get here. We had, you might recall that all of this work has included major maintenance type projects in our HVAC system and all the way through into the walls, for example, and the removal of those glass panels up in the in the chambers so that people can actually hear what's going on in the state capitol. So this budget figure has been in place for a couple of years now. It hasn't grown. We have really dug deeply on this one. I would tell you, Superintendent, that we dug down, and that subcommittee has gone through line by line repeatedly on this acoustics project. There's much, much more that could be done, but it's very limited in what we can do. And I think we've targeted what we feel like we can get done with what the budget figure is.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. You had comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would agree there is an ongoing crusade to make the People's House the most open and the most accessible for anybody who shows up there to participate in their government. This is an accessibility issue and an access issue, not only for the public, but the people who choose to serve in the legislature. So the committee actually brought in a company called Avant Acoustics, which was utterly astounding. I really didn't understand the science behind hearing. You know, I've participated in some of these spaces, and admittedly, I have relatively young ears and tend to hear pretty well, but it's even jumped out at me where I struggle to hear in the Capitol. So they actually came in and did very, very scientific sound tests all over the place, and were able to really pin down the problem areas, but then also sort of free up areas where we don't need to mess with. And again, like this auditorium is one that really doesn't have acoustics problems or issues here. We are actually limited to the appropriation that's there. And to my co-chairman's point, I think it is important to note that this has survived over several legislative sessions, and there's been no push or conversation at all that I've heard of to try to remove this money through different administrations of the legislature and different JACs. There's been pretty solid support across a broad spectrum in the legislature there. And I would note within the subcommittee, it wasn't open. And in fact, again, to the co-chair's point, we went through and rejected a lot of options that we didn't think were right for the Capitol. This isn't fixing everything. This isn't, turning everything into a padded room that's super sound absorbing. We really tried to hit a balance to make sure that everybody that comes in there can hear, participate, and speak to their representatives, but also respecting the fabric of the building and working within the appropriation that we have. I would note that that appropriation does have to cover all three of those legislatively mandated projects, the break room, acoustics, and the broadcast studio. Again, those were all listed very clearly in that law. And so we are limited by that.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And if I heard correctly, there needs to be a padded room for legislators if they serve too long. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Madam Secretary. No.
No, I just meant a padded room might be helpful for me sometimes.
But no, Mr. Chairman, I understand some of the hesitation around this, but we have been we have told the contractor to go back to the drawing board many times on this to say, nope, that doesn't quite fit what we want, or that's not gonna fit our needs. But then always with that mind of we want people to be able to hear and participate.
Thank you. I note that Secretary Gray has his hand up. I'll recognize you and
Senator Landon had it first. He could go first. That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, just real quickly, I might recall for you the story that that is of historical relevance with regard to this acoustic stuff. You might remember that we told the commission a couple of years ago that shortly after the Capitol was built, 120 some years ago, they had to go back in because they couldn't hear each other, and they brought straw bale panels into the two chambers to try to help absorb some of the sound. It's come quite a way. So we're not putting straw bales into the Capitol these days. It's quite refined, and a lot of technology has led to just remarkable ability to correct the sound in some of those areas. So pretty fascinating stuff, but this is historically relevant and was done a long time ago, just like we need to do it now. So.
Thank you. So Secretary Gray, give you the last word.
Well, thank you. And just to respond to a few of those points, a lot of comments that weren't telling the whole story there. This appropriation was opposed by many members of the House in both the 21 and 22 sessions. I was there as one of those members. And I want to note that this has been opposed for some time, and it's been sort of this ongoing crusade. And certainly, I'm very concerned about these sort of straw man arguments. We want the Capitol to be accessible. We want the Capitol to be strong, and we want the Capitol to be beautiful. But that does not mean that we give a blank check every time we have these sorts of projects proposed. And I am not going to vote aye. I'm going on a project that is going to be a multi-million-dollar project that I have not seen it clear the bar. And I'm just very concerned about it, and I'm going to be voting no. And I've been opposing this now for 4 or 5 years. So I just am very concerned. And I think the straw man arguments, some of them that we've heard, are revealing as to how this is not necessary. So I'm going to be a no. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I just want to thank the co-chairs for the work on this. I've followed a bit from afar and have learned a lot more about accessibility and education as I've been superintendent. And I do know that this is an area where we need to make sure that folks are, and that is an argument. Actually, it's a really justifiable one, that folks can have access to our Capitol, can hear what's going on, can know what their elected officials are saying. And I mean, you go in these rooms and they're terrible. And I don't think that it's runaway spending here. And I think that the committee has gone through multiple iterations. I've seen some of their meetings where they have reduced the scope and the amount of money. And so anyway, I do think it's important that people can hear what's going on in their government. And that is, in fact, what we're talking about right now. Thank you.
Thank you
again.
And then I see the Secretary's hand up. I'm not sure we're making progress, but we'll listen to you again, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we want an accessible building. And so these sort of straw man arguments, it's not effective in getting to a conclusion and having a robust discussion about them. The reality is I know of one individual who's had issues with acoustics in the Capitol. And what they had was an aid to address those issues. And they have a system in place to address those issues. And I just don't see the limiting principle on this appropriation. I'm sure this is interesting stuff, but comparing this to putting hay bales out, I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars here, and we want an accessible Capitol. We want a strong Capitol. We want a beautiful Capitol. And we want to do that, but we also need to be fiscally responsible. And this is not clearing the mark for me. And I understand it might be for others, but I'm just trying to express my point of view. So I don't think we need to have this sort of straw man thing where we're trying to stop accessibility. It's not what this is about. This is about whether it meets the bar. And I just think this multi-million-dollar appropriation doesn't. And we certainly want accessibility. And we
Treasurer.
No, we don't need to. On All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays?
No.
Thank you. I think that motion
Thank you.
carried. The treasurer has asked for a brief break, so let's do that. Thanks. And we've got one more matter, is that right? Very good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks very much. We're back. Thank you, Senator Landon, Senator Driscoll, Representative Angelos. Nice to have you here. Representative, I was up there this morning. The YGAP thing was going on. It's been amazing. 24-to-1 return on investment, 200-to-1 return on monitoring on that. And thanks to Gillette for hosting that really wonderful deal. So we're back, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, commission members, while we did consider removal of item 4 from the agenda, invited guests are present and may wish to provide informational updates regarding the Capitol Avenue Bronze Project, the new large Echoes plaques. I'd like to invite Mr. Nathaniel Trelease to the testimony table.
And Mr. Trelease, please come on up. Thank you very much for being here today and witnessing our, yeah, please, right there. And there'll be a button that it looks like somebody kind of sneezing or yelling. And if you hit that, it'll turn red. And there you are. And I actually want to say thanks very much for being here. It was nice to have the mayor for one of our Capitol Square deals, and it feels like we've got great work that we can do together. So, floor is yours, sir.
Well, Governor and members of the commission, thank you for allowing me to appear. My name is Nathaniel Trelease. I am the chairman of the Cheyenne and Laramie County America 250 Commission, which was a special punishment that the mayor of Cheyenne visited upon me more than 2 years ago after I successfully chairing the Capitol Avenue Bronze Project. The Capitol Avenue Bronze Project, each of you have ceremonial or functional offices inside of this structure in this complex, or the bronze structures that extend from really 23rd Street, or what would have been 23rd Street, down Capitol Avenue to the historic train depot, and have spread throughout Cheyenne, Wyoming. The original concept was to cast bronze statues of historic and iconic figures in Wyoming history, and thereby inspire both citizens and visitors to learn more about the history of one of the only 50 states. It may be the smallest state in terms of population, but it has a very worthy and honorable history, which we wanted to share. Remarkably, we weren't sure that we could have achieved that even in 5 years. Our aspiration was to cast 28 statues. I can tell you, not quite 5 years into this project, because we began in August, September of 2021, there will be 100 statues, including well-known figures in Wyoming history, Francis C. Warren, J.M. Carey, Esther Hobart Morris, Nellie Taylor Ross, and others, but also some that are a little bit more obscure, like Willis Van Deventer, which a remarkable number of people in the state, including lawyers, don't realize is the only person in Wyoming history to serve on the United States Supreme Court. So it's a remarkable thing. One of the criticisms early on was, why are you surfacing obscure figures? But that was the point. They shouldn't be obscure. We have a responsibility as citizens, whether you're native born or you've moved to Wyoming, to understand the history of this place and perpetuate its heritage. Now, to the current project, as part of the America 250 Commission, we wanted to leave something behind that was more significant. And I shouldn't say more significant, I should say more long-lasting than fireworks, concerts, parades, food truck rallies, and other events. All of those are very worthy. You want to inspire citizenry to learn about their history. You want to encourage them to take responsibility for that heritage, but you also want to celebrate. Celebration is great. But in 2 weeks, none of these things are going to be remembered. So more than 2 years ago, we decided to engage in another significant public arts project, which was casting 4 bronze panels. So flat surfaces like the surface of the table that I'm sitting at now, 60 inches wide, 40 inches high. So rather large. And we decided that each of those would depict different eras in Wyoming history. The first would be, obviously, the nature that we've all inherited. natural history. The second would be westward expansion. The explorers initially, right? John Coulter and Jim Bridger and others, and the pioneers. So the second is westward expansion. The third is the development of what a lot of our families have developed in this state: agriculture, industry, transportation, the honorable history of the trains as well. And then the fourth would be, which is emblematic throughout this great structure, which is Wyoming political history, particularly the leading role that this state has had in women's suffrage. The artistic form of the panels is high relief. It's a form of sculpture developed in the high Italian Renaissance, the apotheosis of which came under the chisels of Michelangelo and Donatello. So semi three-dimensional figures that emerge from a flat plane. So if you imagine again the table that I'm sitting at now, figures will emerge from that. And these are well, the animals, the wildlife are not identifiable by name but by species, but the individuals in each of those panels are identifiable by name. And we were calling these, the challenge we had is we really want to marry this with the moment in time that we're experiencing now, which is the semi-quincentennial. The 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, which we trace to July 4, July 6, if you're really particular about it, and the signing of the Declaration of Independence at the Philadelphia or the Pennsylvania State House in Pennsylvania. So we decided to call these Echoes, America at Wyoming 250, because we're trying to capture how American founding principles or ideals echo in the land and in the history of the people who stayed in Wyoming and made Wyoming civilization distinct. They're both a narrative they both capture that moment, which we hope will be here for not merely 25 years, but during America 300 and America 350 and 50, or hopefully 100 years. Some of us, me included, probably won't make it to America 300, but certainly others will. And Mr. Chairman, Governor Gordon, that was our purpose.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think they are extraordinary, the reliefs that you gave us, or not gave us, but showed us, demonstrate the exquisite detail of each of them. Are there particular questions?
Mr. Chairman, I was able to view these things probably a couple of weeks ago, and they really are, I think, emblematic of our history, and I think it's something that will last for another 250 years, because they'll be there, and we won't be around, but hopefully somebody will make a 500. You never can tell.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks. Of particular note on this, and thank you, Mr. Trillies, for being here. You're in the process of installing them at 23rd Street, 22nd Street?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we seriously consider this. We had the opportunity to meet with you and Representative Nicholas and a variety of other people a couple of days ago. And the suggestion was that there might be a temporary installation, including somewhere on the Capitol grounds, which we very seriously considered. Our challenges were two or threefold. First, time. Tick, tick, tick at the clock. And the creation, the design and the creation of not necessarily pedestals, but easels or some sort of other platform for the display. How would those be funded and where would those be placed? And could we achieve that between now and July 4? And the answer was probably not. Our ideal location was on the southeast and southwest corners of Capitol Avenue and 24th Street, which is right outside of this building, because we think that they're both the narrative summary of the Bronze Project, but more importantly, sort of the storyline, if you will, the capstone of state history. But out of, deference to this organization, the states, and also this commission's long-term plan, which I know that you, Governor, and also Representative Nicholas have worked on for a very long time, we decided to install them and are in the process of doing that or at least the initial steps on 22nd Street and Capitol on the east side of the street. So in front of the Diocese of Cheyenne building, which is also going to be torn down in the next few years.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. It's been a long time hope of mine that the city and the state could think a lot about the space in front of the Capitol. And I know we've talked about that. The mayor has talked about it. Pete Laybourne and I have talked about it. He's walked me around quite a bit. And I, you know, there are various notions that come up from time to time that really would make sense for the city and the state to explore in terms of that area in front of there. So I'm really happy to hear that that's a temporary thought, and that maybe there's a way to work with the city in more close fashion to be able to bring these exquisite pieces of art more into relief with the Capitol.
Yes, and really at the encouragement of your staff, Betsy Anderson, and also Justice Carrie Grab, that's really the purpose, my purpose in being here, which is to say, although we're installing them there, to the extent that you develop the Hall of, I believe that Representative Nicholas called it the Path of Glory or the Path of Honor, or other like comprehensive and strategically, aesthetically strategic installations, we'd be happy to cooperate and happy to move those as needed, or other statues that are in existence or are planned. So we want to fully cooperate with that and find different channels of more effectively communicating.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Trelease. Are there any questions or comments? Yeah.
I would say, I
Mr.
hope that
Treasurer.
we get these things, you know, really kind of as soon as possible, because that Spanish-American War thing just drug on and on and on and on. So we need to, you know, really, I think, really effectively do it. And I think that the auditor and whoever replaces Senator Landon, you know, would be in a great place to move forward on that stuff.
Excellent. Anything?
No, I'll just allow me to single out a couple of people on your team, or I don't actually know what branch they're in, but Nathan Dorr, your Capitol curator, has been immensely helpful throughout this process. And we talked about temporary installation, so I want to single him out. And also Jenny Wacker has been very helpful throughout as well.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Trelease. Well, this is exciting. In a few days, we'll be celebrating. Madam Secretary, anything on that?
Mr. Chairman, nope.
Very good. Well, thank you very, very much. Is there anything more to come before us? Thank you, Nathaniel, sorry for being here.
Mr. Chairman, no. Adjournment.
Yeah, we do have public comment. If there's any public comment. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved, it's been seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Superintendent, are you going to be around here today or tomorrow, whenever?
I'll call you.
Okay.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.